Hey guys, ooh, that's hot. Let's bring that down. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Creations Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. So, today we kind of just going through some different ways you can use Midi to enhance your setup. A lot of you guys have things like the Zoom MS-60B Plus or the MS-70 Plus or the HX1, and these are amazing pedals, but even things like the Hog 2 and the V256 vocoder, all these different things can be used with Midi. So I guess what you got to understand, like Midi is just like a universal language that musical devices use to communicate, and other devices as well. You can link up to it, but one thing about it is you can easily set it up to where the pedals that do have MIDI, you can have program changes and change a lot with just a click of a switch. So currently, I just did this pedal board yesterday, so I'm still troubleshooting everything, right? So still setting everything up with the MIDI included. So when you're setting up your pedal board, there's like 3 different layers to it. It's the audio cables, like that's one layer of it, but you also have the power cables, and then you also have the MIDI cables or USB cables in certain cases. So like things like the C4 synth are using a USB cable, as well as the Zoom pedals are using a USB cable. The HX1 allows the use of a MIDI cable, but you can use USB. I actually have the USB going in, and then I have a through going to the coming out of the HX1 going to the Electro Harmonics Hog 2 rather. So, and then I also have an out running out directly out of the MIDI box to the V256 vocoder. So let's just see what we got here. All right. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe, hit that like button. And, make sure y'all check out the Patreon for all the different presets for all these different pedals and stuff. But, yeah, so on my first switch here, well, let's just explain how everything's set up first. I think we'll just do a quick pedal order, or how everything's set up with the pedal board. I think that'll help out a lot. So these pedals, this looper and this one, are the 2 main hubs of the entire board. These are T-tone loopers. They're available on Amazon. And let me see, I had a link for them, but I'll have to get it up again. But these are the main hub of the entire board. And what they allow you to do is pretty much split the board up into different sections. So I have things like the first loop, this green one, it just basically comes out of here, goes to the pedals, and then loops back. So that's all it is. So first loop is poly blue octave going into the OC5, going into the Spectrum, and then the C4 synth. So poly blue, OC5, Spectrum, C4 synth. From the C4 synth, it's going out to the Hog 2. Then it's coming to the Deep Freeze, and then it's going to the MS-60B Plus. Okay? So basically, I have all these kind of set up for my different sounds I need them for. And I'm kind of using the Spectrum just as like an overdrive pedal, as well as overdrive pedal, and what else I got on there? Let me see. I think I have a bit crusher on there as well. So if you want any of these bass synths that you'll hear as well, they're available in the C4 synth pack on Patreon. But oh, bam. So, you know, you can get a ton of uses out there. That Deep Freeze, it got some nice little sounds to it. You know, huge fan of that pedal. It's not the cheapest little micro pedal, but it is efficient, does sound good as well. So, and then the MS-60B Plus, which has a plethora of sounds. Speaking of plethoras, we got one of those too. But so that's pretty much the first loop. Second loop is the male 9, the key 9. So male 9, key 9, rabbit sitar, and then the big orange pedal, which is the V256 vocoder. And the vocoder. Testing the vocoder, testing the vocoder. So, you got that there as well. So, you got a lot of different things you can do with this pedal board here, and that's only the first two loops. So, the third loop is the bass balls, pretty much these three filters. So, bass balls. Bass balls. Envelope filter and the blurst. Very smooth, very all these are analog, but this is the warmest filter out of all of them, and you just throw that on any synth and this just sounds amazing. So, and I was controlling that with a Source Audio dual expression pedal. And running out the Hog 2 also is the Electro Harmonics expression pedal, and I also have an expression pedal running out of the MIDI controller, but that's not connected to anything at the moment. But yeah, so that's loop 3. So that explains pretty much all this side of the board. Yeah, pretty much that's all that side of the board there. This is just a memory, the foot controller for the memory for the Hog 2. And then, so coming out of here, so if none of these are on, it bypasses this entire side of the board. It just goes straight from here. I go straight into here. This is my bass, straight into here. Coming out of here, going straight to here. Right now, nothing in here is activated, so everything in here is bypassed. And these T-tone loopers, like I said, they're amazing. Let me see some. Let me put my little Amazon link for that joint on there. If you're interested in getting these pedals, and I just need to do this in general. Like if you guys ever want to support the channel, you can do that. Excellent way is to support my Amazon. You can use my affiliate links, all that good stuff. Appreciate y'all. So there you go. That's the link to it. But yeah, these are about $40. They're not expensive, but they work well for keeping all of that out of my signal chain. It's not like if I have all this on, it's gonna give me any extra. So here's everything bypass. here's that entire side of the board on. So literally, oh, still get that on, sorry. So even with them on, I'm not getting, I'm not getting obsessive amounts of noise. And that's thanks to the one spot CS12s. I have 2 of those on here. That's how it's powering this bigger board with 2 CS12s, along with a Moore power supply, which has like 8 outputs. But I'm just using that for things that aren't like real finicky. Like these filters aren't real finicky. So I had that extra spare power supply lying around. So I went with that and just using that to power like the LED lights on these loopers. Because these are passive, so these don't have to have power, but if you want the LED lights to run, you just hook them to your pedal board. So now these, and that's what I said, these are a great help. Because if anything goes wrong, you just take everything out, and it's pretty much me going straight from here to jumping to the Empress compressor. So coming out, coming into this one, first loop is the MS-60B, which I use. Which I use for like that Marshall type sound. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Then I have this second loop here. That's this entire little pedal board down here with all my analog preamps on it. So all these preamps down here are in this one loop. And so this one loop comes down here to another T-tone looper where I have 3 additional loops in this one inside this one effects loop. And all these run down here, but they're not, if I'm not using them, like say, I have copy of them, of each of them on the ToneX one. So this is my main gigging preamp at the moment. And it pretty much has all of these, all 11 preamp packs available on Patreon as well. Got all, all these are on the ToneX one. So, but when I'm in the studio, I want to have access to them. So pretty much these last 2 loops here, I'm using as additional loops for stuff. So like stuff I don't really have to have them, but I use them for that. So bam, all that's down there. Third loop here, well, this is the 6th loop really. 6th loop is the Zoom B6. So I might run IRs sometimes with the analog preamps. That's my preference when I'm recording and stuff. So I'll actually do things. Let me see. Put the bass back in there. Let's go. See, like right now, that's that Gensler Magellan preamp, but I can easily turn that off. Right? I could turn it off from there and switch preamps, or I can just take it out the signal altogether and just take that whole board out. And when I'm ready to not have it hooked up and I'm taking just this board to go to gigs, I can just unplug this and unplug that. And now all this stuff is disconnected from here. So that's pretty cool too. But you can those are also options. But from there, if we bypass all that stuff, we come straight into the Empress compressor, going into the ToneX One, where I have all my different preamps set up to, run to different amps. Instead of using the preamps that they have on the actual bass amps on different places, I bypass that completely, and I use my ToneX One to compensate for that. So here's my bass by itself. Here's the Empress. All right. Here's the ToneX One. And that's actually a Masa Boogie setting. That's an Ampeg SGT. Here's a color box. Here's a BH500. And mind you, that's that really big 30-pound head right there. That makes it really convenient just having all that right there in the ToneX One, compared to trying to lug around that 30-pound head, which is insane, Same big tone. If I want to switch to the Mark bass, Lower Mark III. Got all of my amps with me, you know what I'm saying? That's awesome. Eden WT DI. And if I'm running direct, I can also choose to have the ToneX One be have the IRs turned on. Right now I have the global IRs turned off, so it won't I'm not running IRs into the cabinets basically. So that's that Ampeg BA 500. I mean BA 210 V2. It's one of my favorite amps too. So that's the really cool thing about the ToneX One, which also I've seen guys do MIDI with it, like the actual ToneX One, but they have to do a lot of hacking and all this extra stuff at the moment. I'm sure they'll make it easier at some point, but for the price of the ToneX One, there's really nothing to complain about. And you also, within the ToneX One, you also get your own little multi-effects unit, with chorus, delay, flanger, like you get modulations, delays, reverbs, compressors, in addition to the amp modeling part of it. So that's a awesome piece of gear. Coming out of here, go into the MXR layers, right? Layers is one of my favorite pedals for a lot of different reasons, but it definitely sounds good. So you can get some really nice stuff with that joint too. And mind you, I have reviews of all of these pedals where I've, typically my reviews are of pedals are about an hour, or more. So I try to really spend some time with the actual pedals and really be thorough in reviewing them. So make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, if you're getting something out of this. And I appreciate y'all hanging with me. Hit that like button for sure. I definitely appreciate y'all hanging with me. So coming out of there, we're going into the Zoom MS-60 CDR Plus. And mind you, all of these, like the CDR Plus, everything that's running on Midi, let me run this chain real quick. So there, coming out of there to the HX1, and then we're going to the Plethora X1. Then we actually come down here on the floor, going to the Jam Man Solo, the Jam Man Express XT, and then we got the Jam Man Solo XT, and we got the Jam Man Solo HD. So, the HD has a little bit slight better quality of sound, and look, subscribe so that's the next review, that Jam Man Solo HD. It doesn't seem like on the surface they did anything to improve it, but they did actually improve the ADA audio conversion on there, so it does sound better. Like it's the high, I'll do an example in a little bit, but it does sound better than the previous unit. It's just they didn't add any new features, but the features they already had were already what I wanted, so I'm just glad they updated something with it. So got all that running, hooked up. That's all the audio, and into the Source Audio Atlas compressor as like a limiter, type of thing. So let me actually do this. That way you guys can see a little bit better. And feel free to comment, ask questions. Yesterday I did how I literally set all this up on live stream. Took me almost 4 hours to set up all this stuff. But yeah, we here now. So basically everything is mono all the way up until we get to the Zoom MS-60 CDR Plus, and then we stereo all the way through. Even the Source Audio compressor, Atlas compressor, is stereo. So now I got all that running. In terms of the MIDI, we have this HD MIDI Pro, and that little thing is amazing. You can do a ton of routing. You can sync up your pedals and that have MIDI time clock. You can sync them up to your DAW. Say you're using Logic and you recording a song, and you set the BPM and the metronome and all that stuff. It'll actually sync up with the software, and that's amazing. An amazing ability, as well as I can set it up to where it will get MIDI from the DAW and change things like on my Hog 2, like the filter, or change when it's freeze glisten or whatever. I can have it set up to change to different reverbs from my HX1, so all those different things can be done through MIDI. But as the standalone unit, it's getting the commands from the MIDI captain. So pretty much that's this H2 MIDI Pro is the hub that pretty much distributes the MIDI signals. Like everything, all the signals are coming from the MIDI captain. So out of the MIDI captain, I press a button, it sends signals to the H2 MIDI Pro, and that sends signal out to the different pedals that I have on MIDI. Now, everything on here is in MIDI, right? But the Source Audio C4 synth, that's on MIDI. The Zoom MS-60B Plus, that's MIDI. MS-70 CDR Plus, MIDI. HX1 is MIDI as well. Unfortunately, also things like all the Source Audio pedals all these have USB MIDI. So the Spectrum as well as the Atlas compressor, but I don't need to control those through the MIDI. And then I also have the V256 and the Hog 2. All that's through MIDI, right? So that means now I can come over here, and as long as I have my loops activated like this, I can come to page 1. I have set up to different presets. Right? So I can press that, bypass everything. Just bypassed everything, that easy. 2, I have set up for when I press it, I can have it as a solo. Solo sound like that. Sorry about that. And if I press it again, it turns the Hog 2 off. So if you see the Hog 2 right here, look right there, that's a light. And I got it to set up to turn it on and off, and I don't have to touch the unit at all, completely eliminating the need to top dance. Not only did I do that, it shifts this, it shifts this, it turns off the C4 synth if it's on. So if the C4 synth was on, it would turn it off. You can tell with this light here. So C4 synth on, turn it off, change that, change that, change that, all with one click of a button. Now, ain't that convenient? Ain't that convenient? Now, it don't change everything at once. You know, it doesn't change the entire setup at once. But it allows you to really have options even with just pressing a button. Still got my solo sound. I can use this for topping. Use it for chords, you know. If I wanted to do something like, and you just got all of that readily available. You don't have to, I didn't have to click anything. I didn't have to, other than the MIDI controller, you know, I could just bam. And that, I can't stress to you how much that makes my life. When you're doing loops, like I'm doing solo shows and things like that. So the loops, when you're doing the loops, you don't want to have to fiddle around. Like, you don't want to be, you know what I'm saying, having to do a bunch of tap dance, and I already got to make sure that the loop goes right. So let me see. Ooh, that's hot. ultimately, it just makes my life easier. So, basically, how am I doing this? How am I able to just pop from sound to sound? So basically, if you have a MIDI captain, I'm pretty much taking each foot switch. Each foot switch is sending out program changes and CC messages. So control changes and program changes, which is just a fancy way of saying program changes is pretty much preset changes, and control changes is pretty much parameters within whatever effect or pedal that you're using that you can change. And you can do that with various values between 0 and 127. So, but the MIDI captain also allows for things like note on and note off. So you can actually take this little controller and you can actually assign these to notes and play it like a regular piano controller. But all that type of stuff. And, things like this, just so you know how complex it can get, you can set this up to control your sheet music, control the backing tracks, control the lighting, control all the patch changes for all the instruments and the pedal board, everything. That's how powerful MIDI is when you really get into it. So right now, I have to, in order to have this communicate with multiple devices, you have to put the devices on different channels. So channel 1 is the Hog 2. Channel 2 is the, and this is MIDI channel. And on stuff like the Hog, on the HX1, excuse me, if you go into the menu, the main menu, by pressing and holding this center knob there, you press and hold that, and it'll take you to the menu. You scroll over, you can change to the MIDI channel, you can change the receive, all the different MIDI parameters, change it to through and all that good stuff. So I have MIDI messages. So each one of these devices will only respond to the corresponding channel. So this Hog 2 is only going to respond to signals, CC or PC signals from channel 1, while the HX1 is only going to receive it from channel 2. The C4 synth is channel 3. The MS-60B Plus is channel 4. Channel 5 is the MS-70 Plus, and by default, the V256 is on channel 16. The Atlas compressor is actually on channel 6 when I want it to be hooked into the system as well. So that allows me to send certain messages like this. So bam, like basically, if you, let's do this a little slower. So let's concentrate like on these two. You can see me changing as I'm pressing the different presets. So one way is to have them set up for all these different presets to happen at once. Another way is on different pages, I have different things set up. So page 2, so page 1 is pretty much my main presets. Let me just go back 1 second. So first one bypasses most of the stuff, just gives me my Empress and the ToneX 1 pretty much. And 2 gives me my solo sounds for either with an octave up or without the Hog 2, pretty much, with the Hog 2 without it. Channel 3, well C rather, is actually synth bass sound. Mostly the C4 synth, but incorporates the HX1 and the MS-70 CDR Plus, but it also sends out signals to turn off the Hog 2 to switch the MS-60B Plus into bypass as well. as well as the vocoder as well. So 2 actually can be used as just a regular funk bass setting. Turn that off. Right, but if you turn on the poly blue with that, if I want to bypass that and add in something like the blurs, no problem. So basically, for the most part, MIDI allows me to switch a lot of these pedals on and off, but these loops here allow me to pretty much do the same thing without having to reach across all the pedals all the time. Sometimes sometimes it's inevitable. Like when I get to this loop, I have to, hit those switches for like the male 9, the key 9, or the rabbit sitar because they don't have MIDI. So, but for the most part, this eliminates so much tap dancing. This makes me so happy. I can't even explain it to you. But, hold on 1 second. Bring this up a bit. So, yeah. These different switches, pretty much just bass synths, different bass synths. I got 4 different bass synth patches on there. And then and the real cool thing about this MIDI Captain is each one of these switches, you can control up to 6 parameters with each motion. So like when I press down, that's 6 parameters, and then when I let go and it goes up, that's another 6 parameters if I set them to something. So I can have it control up to, with one press and release, I can have it control up to 12 different things. So at once, 12 different actions. So that's plenty of stuff to change a sound, So, all right, now we can continue. So these preset pages are presets, the next few pages rather. So page 2 controls the line 6 HX1. I'm sorry, some of these names are a little close, but the HX1, so controls that. So on that I have go back, bypass everything, and then we'll go straight to that. It just has a, that is the Noble without it, with it. And I have it just so it just cuts on. I don't have it boosting or cutting anything. Next I got this analog flanger I like. And I don't know why I even reach. You know, I can turn it on and off with the switch as well. So I have it programmed to do the program switch, as well as when I press it again, it'll toggle it to bypass and whatnot. So delay. Dynamic hall. Dynamic bloom. Shimmer. Particle reverb and poly pitch as well. So I pretty much have it set up for page 1 to be presets, probably page 1 and page 16, just because they're next to each other are going to be presets. I need more than 8, you know, but luckily you get at least 8 presets with this, and then you can scroll up with the pages here. So page 3 is different C4 synth sounds. And all these can be found in the pack as well. So I pretty much have 8 presets from each of those pedals so far, you know. This is changing the MS-60B Plus. So I have things like a chorus. Let me. Nice tri-chorus. Nice swell vibrato. Great for synth. Right? Bass flanger. So instead of having a bunch of you know, just presets with stuff, I wanted to make sure I could still, even though I don't want to have to tap dance, I wanted to make sure I still right there at my feet, or if I decide to put this MIDI captain up on a stand or something, I got access to stuff. I can just literally turn things on and off without doing too much, even still with the digital pedals. Like the multi-stomp pedals are a headache to get to the presets without MIDI. So, you know, that's one of the things that kind of actually pushed me to MIDI. I have these two multi-stomp pedals that I love. You know, I also did a review on the MS-90 LP, the new Zoom multi-stomp looper. This joint, hold on. Y'all can check that out too. While you doing your internet in the day, I did a review on this as well, so you can check that out. That's on the page. They do sound good, but heads up, you can't switch loops without it stopping. So you can't cue loops up. But it does sound great. Does sound great, and for $100, it definitely beat any other looper that's $100. You know, plus it's got MIDI, which we dealing with. This is why this is pretty cool. It also has MIDI out, MIDI in and out, so you can use this. You can use this as a master time clock, and it'll for the MIDI clock and stuff, and everything else will sync up to this. So that's pretty cool. One feature with these. So nice bass flanger there. Detune, which works great with the synths. That's sweet. Yeah, as you can see, different presets. So, as well as I even have a vocoder preset on here. I started setting up on page 16. Testing the vocoder, testing the It even holds it for me if I hold it, just as if I was holding the mic bypass switch on the V256, which freezes notes. So now I can play another chord, and it'll also hold this one when I wanted to. Otherwise, it does this. See? Now I can just use it like a vocoder. I can also toggle it on and off. See? Toggle it on and off. So that keeps me from having to reach back there to the vocoder. I can also have another page set up for the presets for that as well if I wanted to. And I would simply, if I wanted it to change presets, what I would do is simply have a program change as one of the actions to set up in here on channel 16. And then on channel 16, I would also send a CC message for when I press the pedal down and I'm holding it, it does that mic bypass. Pretty much you need to let me see what it is on here. Program, I got it set for channel 16, which is the vocoder program change number 3. So that's actually preset number 4. MIDI is like a little weird sometimes. Like the presets may be like one off, so you might have to put in a program change for 3 that is really to trigger preset 4. I know it's strange. So it's just because MIDI starts at 0 and a lot of these preset lists start at 1. So, but channel 16 is set up for that, and then channel 2 is set up for the hall, and it goes, that's the HX1, goes to the hall preset, and number 6, channel 16 CC, number 28, I got set to, when I hold it, press it down, with CC 28 is the control change for the mic bypass switch. And so when I press it down, it's on 127, meaning it's on, it's holding it. And when I have it on channel, I have it set to another one when it releases on channel 16 CC 28 to 0. So basically when I release it, it's at 0. When I press it, it's at 127. And, you know, continue. And then I also have on the 4th channel, which is the MS-60B Plus here, I have some of the Blueberry drive running with the vocoder as well to give it a little bit more texture in the vocoder. 5, I have set up to do the swell. I'm actually going to set this up different, but it's supposed to be this. Testing the vocoder. So it's pretty much set up to change all those pedals that I need to get to that vocoder sound without me having to click, 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 you know, which is going to save me a ton of time when I am, of course, doing looping, live shows, things like that. So definitely makes my life way better having something like this. We got a question from Creepy Mo. Says, do you find that your signal gets weak altered going through so many pedals? I have not, and I wonder if it's too much. If you don't have good cables, for one, I make all these cables. Like, I literally make all these cables. Like, I buy the cable in bulk, and I make them with these 2 different heads. They're either the flat one, like this, but these are wider. Let me switch views here. So they're either wider, like this, and flat, or they're a little bulkier, but they're slimmer. So I just make all my own all my own cables, so I don't have to. That's eliminated. Then on top of that, you got to use good power supplies. So I have 2 CS12s running in here underneath this big board, along with a Moore power supply that's just controlling pedals that aren't as that aren't super finicky. Like these analog filters aren't super finicky. Like something like I had to take this H2 Midi Pro off of the Moore and put it on the CS12 one spot. So, and I also use a ISO brick under this one down here. So it's ISO brick under there as well. But yeah, that helps. Then I use these switchers here. If you go to that Amazon link right there, it'll take you to these 3-way switchers on Amazon. They're made by T-Tone, and they pretty much bypass all of this stuff. So when all of these are off, all these pedals right here, all these are bypassed. All this is bypassed. Only thing that's actually running, all this plus all this stuff on the floor is except for the loopers. So pretty much all this stuff, it goes from here, pretty much right here, comes straight to here, comes out of here, goes to the Empress compressor, ToneX 1 layers, MS-70 CDR plus, HX1, Plethora X1 into the looping pedal board, this little mini looping pedal board down here. So with all of that, you still should be getting just fine. And try to make sure that you have pedals that have true bypass, and you got to use the buffered pedals where necessary. So if I keep this first loop on, it's not going to be necessarily a bad thing for me. I can. The Boss pedals, that OC5 has a buffered bypass, so that's good. Something nice to have at the beginning of the chain, so I can actually leave that first loop on. The rest of those pedals have true bypass, and the MS-60B Plus, I don't know if they have true bypass, but the analog filters are real. I mean, the analog circuitry is really good, so it's really clean. Take it out. I can put in all the pedals. So this is what it sounds like with none of the pedals on. Let me make sure. This is what it sounds. Bring down. Mind you, I run an 18-volt preamp in here, so I got plenty of headroom with this bass. I got plenty of power with it. So it's running 18-volt Aguilar OP3 or something like that. I believe that's it. Or OBP3, something like that. I forgot the name of the exact preamp, something like that. All right, so I'm gonna turn on all the pedals. All right, so all the loops are on. So technically, right now I'm running through. I got something on. Oh, this. Yeah, this is the only one that the reason I have this MS-50G on its own loop here, it's on this C loop here, the green one, is because it colors your tone. Like the older older multi-stomp pedals definitely colored your tone when they were bypassed. The newer ones are fine, they sound amazing, but this one I have to, like, nah, Slim, get this up out of there. Get that up out of there. So we'll leave that one off. I know that's kind of cheating, but whatever. So that's with everything, like all these pedals running with the exception of this one MS-50G. But that's running through down here. But this T-tone down here is all bypassed as well. So pretty much it's just running through all these pedals up here on this big board. Oh, that's why. Oh, I don't have everything bypassed. I'm sorry. I was like, I know it shouldn't be that much of a deal. It's not really no. I had the blur storm. But yeah. that's why it's important to kind of have these little loopers. Even if it's not the power supply, you definitely want to take as many pedals and stuff, because it's not really the pedals, it's the cable length. Like with all these pedals, that's a lot of extra cabling to run your signal through, which is inevitably going to cause loss at some point, you know. But I have a buffer here, and then I have a buffer in the TC Electronic Plethora X1. I have that set to a buffer as well. So even with all that running, it still ain't too bad. So, and you know, the noise floor ain't too crazy either. It ain't too much. So, yeah, you know, it's better if you just can have them taken out, you know. And that gives you, I also like these because if anything goes wrong in any of these particular effects loops, I can just not use that one for the rest of the show, or not use it for the rest of the set, fix it later. But if you got all this hooked up and chained together, you're going to have some real problems. You definitely want to use it. So it's definitely, yeah, ISO brick is definitely a solid power supply. CS12s, the new one spot ones, you can actually chain together. You know, I haven't tried out the Walrus ones yet. The Walrus power supplies they just came out with, the same people that made the Canvas DI. But yeah, so ultimately, you can use Midi to control your rig, like your entire rig. Like if you know, if your amp happen to have Midi, you can control that. If you're using, once I figure out how to get this on the Midi, it's over. Once I get this ToneX one on there, it's a wraps. I'm trying to tell you, because I can then have access to all 20 slots in there, you know, and really change things. That'll give me a reason to do more, like just straight up raw bass presets. But, you know, even with my raw bass tone, I can just come up here, just bypass it. Just bypass everything. And I think I probably keep these first two loops on, because it'll make my life easier with the MIDI stuff. I like to have this, so I like to have this set up for little different things. I also have my color box setting in here that's a little bit more of a neutral, just kind of like just a neutral sound that I can use for chordal things and different things like that. So I'll typically have this set up where I have 3 different sounds, typically something like this. work around those 3 sounds in different instances. So that's awesome. So, you know, but like I said, I've seen people use these with MIDI. I might just break down and get like the little chocolate. I think they said it's the M valve chocolate or something like that. I'll have to look into it, but I was trying to avoid adding any more foot switches, you know, but I'd rather this not have its own dedicated foot switch. I would rather just be able to link it with the rest of the MIDI and this type of stuff here. So, but yeah, the MIDI is something I've been begrudgingly getting into. You know, like I really didn't want to have to go this route, but, you know, the more I do it, the more, you know, yes, it's a headache to set up and just sit here, press a switch, look at these little menus, got to go through all the manuals and see what the CC messages and the PC messages are, and then I got to set up all the presets. I got to sit here and play through the different presets on each individual device to set it up. Like, so I have the actual presets. I can't just turn on the effect and just have it sound all crazy when I'm just jumping to it. But once it's set up, now I can just play, you know. So, you know, that's the other part though. Like, you know, once it's set up, you can just play. Like, you can do whatever you need to do, whatever extra pedals you need to bring in other than this. So if I have this triggering, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have this triggering 6 different pedals at once, right? At the moment, I can also, with this H2 MIDI Pro, you can not only chain things together with the MIDI out. I have a USB hub that I have mounted underneath this board, and I have all the USB devices running into there, the ones that have USB MIDI, and I can have up to 8 of those. So I can chain together as many as I can through the MIDI out, that, you know, as I need to. But with the USB, I can do up to 8, which is plenty of for this little thing. Like 8 MIDI devices. You know what I'm saying? Most people's pedal board isn't even 8 pedals. You know what I'm saying? So if you got some pedals like these Zoom ones and like a multi-stomp or something, you want them to communicate a little better, or just have things set up to, if you ever wish you didn't, you can use more of your sounds. Like one of my things I've always hated is I can't always get to all my sounds on stage, like, you know, while I'm on stage, not like later. You know what I'm saying? I just, this makes me happy. I'm not gonna lie to you, and I'm gonna have to sit here and set up a bunch of more stuff, but to be able to go straight here, bypass. That's the Poly Blue. See, anything that's not on MIDI now, I have to remember to go and click, but it's a lot less to just click that. Like, it's a lot less to click 2 things or 3 things versus 6 or 7, right? Like I said, in order to change all 6 of those pedals, I would normally have to do it manually, but and with it being able to have little stuff like that where I can turn on devices on and off pressing the same switch, that makes each preset, each switch more. Like, it was just one thing, like just one thing to just be able to press it and it's a preset, right? Like, it's one thing to just press it from here and go to here. It's another thing if you can press this same button and you got a variation of that sound. Whew, and it's beautiful. Then you can just go straight to synth bass. beat to funk. Where's this guy on it? This got the oh, this guy is on it. Change that to synth bass. Totally different synth bass. So having all these sounds just readily available is just amazing, and it saves you time, it saves you energy. It's more cost and more energy up front. Like I'll be lying to you if I said it's not a learning curve. It's a real learning curve to using the MIDI with your pedals, but it definitely is once you learn it, it's not difficult at all. All you need to know is program changes and control changes. Program changes is changing the presets. Control changes is changing the different parameters. And you just need to look at the manual of each individual device to find out what those parameters numbers is, or are rather. I don't know why I said that like that. But, you know, it's not as scary as it seems, especially because if you take this H2 MIDI Pro has an app. You go on the app is super easy, super intuitive. Like you can just use it. It's not hard. It's like literally click and it connects things. Like it saves it too. So like once you set it up, it saves it in here. And now you don't have to use the software. You just start it up, and it runs off of 9 volts, the same power supply as your pedal board. So now you can just throw it on the pedal board with the power supplies you already use, and bam. Now I will say you want to have that on an isolated power supply because it's feeding pedals throughout your pedal board here. You definitely want to have this MIDI, box there on a separate, like isolated channel. You know what I'm saying? So don't put that on the chain, the little power chain thing. If you use those, I would say you want this on, like, I took it off of the Moore one. The Moore isn't isolated outputs, but it gives me 8 additional outputs of things that, like these loopers, which are passive, is just turning these lights on and off. Or like if it's using the expression pedal, that Moore is just fine. So it's just powering something. Simple, but it's not something that affects audio. With this, but you got to treat that MIDI thing like it's audio, because it will like get, I was originally getting noise out of my signal chain because I had it running on the Moore instead of the one spot CS12. Once I put it on the CS12 on the isolated output, just fine. So, the main thing is just going to be understanding that you need to, first of all, get the manuals. What I did was I got all the manuals together, and I went and I screenshot it. After I downloaded the whole manual, just in case I needed it, I screenshotted each of the MIDI tables so I wouldn't have to go back through the manual to get to the information I needed. Basically, I didn't want to have to keep going back flipping through the manual to get to the MIDI information that I needed for program changes or control changes. So that's something else that you might want to do as in addition to, you want to just learn like these two pieces of gear. This H2 Midi Pro, which is easy. I'm gonna do a review on both of these as well, and exactly how I set it up. Where I'll zoom in on this little screen here, and show you guys exactly how I set it up. But I kind of gave you a brief thing on it. Like I said, when I'm pressing this I'm on page 1. I'm pressing this. This got 16 pages of these being presets, which is insane. So you got 8 switches here. That's 8 presets per page, and it's 16 pages. So that's a lot of presets that you can have. That is a ton of presets. Not only that, but like I said, you can have things set up to where it's like you got alternative patches even within the patch. Like you can have it where you just hold this down, and it's one patch or doing one thing, going crazy, and you let it go, it's back to normal. That's the power. And not only that, when you pressed it, you could have had the lights flicker. You could have had it switch a page on your MIDI, on your iPad. Like if you're using, instead, sometimes I use these. I don't know if you guys are hip. I use these sometimes. It's just a page turner for when I'm reading off of my iPad, my sheet music off of iPad. I can just change the pages with my feet instead of taking my hands off my bass when I'm reading. But I don't even have to do that. Like, I can literally set this up to do that and everything else that I would need on my pedal board with those pedals that have MIDI. So, that's something it's something cool. It's something cool and satisfying about when you do it. I don't know. When I first got it to really do the presets and change everything, I instantly felt the I guess it's not burden, but I felt like I just did a solo gig not too long ago where I was kind of like, man, I wish I didn't. I love having all my pedals and access to stuff, but I wish I had a simpler way of getting things, together, So this helps, and I still might get a MIDI loop switcher. So instead of these being passive, I might get one that does it through MIDI, But I would have to see which one I would like, because they take up so much space. A big MIDI controller like I would need would be this much real estate. You know what I'm saying? So that's difficult for me to give up on my pedal board at the moment. So I might just stick to this, and that way I can just do minimum tap dancing, like stuff like the the Mel 9, like this, and the Key 9. I still have to bend down and switch sounds. Like I use the strings, I use the flutes, I use the choir sounds, I use the Key 9. Actually, mostly only use the dynamo, but I do occasionally use the mallets, the vibes, and the steel drum occasionally. So that's stuff I got to bend down and get to. Fortunately, on the Ravis sitar, I do have presets in here, so I can just literally press this, and it'll go to the different presets. It would be cool. It would have been cool if they had MIDI in that too, but you can't have everything. But yeah, so overall, I would recommend definitely, checking out MIDI if you have a few pedals like these that they got. Let me see what we got here. Oh yeah, no problem, Creepy Mo. Yeah, you don't even take being a nerd. It ain't really that hard. It's just a couple programming, setting stuff up, and then all it's gonna do is make your life easier. That's all it's gonna do. Like I said, me being able to go from straight up playing bass to soloing or tapping to And I can instantly just add. That's mad loud. Get to that Marshall sound. And that's all just from 2 presets right there, you know. That just covers so much territory. And I mean, for me, the majority of gigs, I can get away with this A and this B setting. Like, you know, this A, B, and with this compressor and this ToneX one setup. All the bass you need. With the ToneX one, right? That's the Gensler Magellan Pre. That's that Ampeg SGT DI, but on the ToneX. And I even got B15. High gain B15. SVT. High gain SVT. Gensler shuttle. Laney Digbeth. Harkey TX600. Aguilar AG Pre. And all these available on the Patreon, by the way. Go check out the Patreon. You want to support the channel more. I got all these different presets for the C4 Synth, MS-60B Plus, MS-70 CDR Plus, the ToneX one. I got 11 different preamps along with my personal preset pack. And I got a preset pack for the Zoom B6 as well. And stay tuned for more. It's going to be more. Don't worry about it. As I go through different pedals and review them, I'll be creating packs for you guys. But as you know, or you may not know, I definitely try to keep most of my reviews under $500. And it's just because if you notice, you don't really see any pedals that are over $500. I really don't think it's necessary. I think they get quite outrageous with some pedals. I love the way some pedals sound, but is that sound worth, is it where's the return on my money? You feel me? Like, you know, for me to spend $800, $1,000 on a reverb, where's the return on that for me? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's that? It probably does sound, it better sound amazing, but where's the return on that for me? It's not much return on that. So, you know, I don't even think you need a super $1 million preamp. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think some of these preamps are a little bit too pricey now. You know, I had a hard time paying $450 for this color box. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot. And most of the tones in your fingers, people. Excuse me. But as you can see, I love my gear as much as the next musician. But never forget, you still got to play the gear. It don't matter how much gear you get, you got to play it. And it's more important that you spend more time. If you don't have your skills all the way together, you know, make sure you spend enough time working on your skills and working on your sound. I'll never tell nobody not to work on their sound or not to experiment with. Follow what you need to follow to get where you're trying to go, but don't forget to work on the hard stuff or the less flashy or the fundamentals. Get to the fundamentals, folks. And that's one of the reasons why I like the Midi. Midi is kind of helping me get back to that fundamentals part of things where, bam, all right, here's the sound. It ain't. Now, it's nothing stopping me from experimenting and adding more stuff. Say I make a new preset on here, I just go here and I just change it to whatever I want it to be. But um, it's less time fiddling around with pedals when you know I may be trying to get to a song idea. Like I said, especially when I'm looping. One of my pet peeves is getting from sound to sound. Like some of my sounds are really complex in terms of it might be 6, 7, 8 pedals to get to that sound. Having it with MIDI definitely helps me out a tremendous amount. So, and just the ease of it. And now I can get back to just worrying about my performance compared to worrying about tap dancing, getting to different pedals. And I think that's the main benefit of MIDI for me in this capacity. Of course, I know, you can use MIDI on keyboards and everything else. But in this capacity, I think it allows me to get back to, yes, I got a million pedals. Yes, I want to use them for different sounds, but I don't want to have to stop in between each sound when I'm performing and doing different things or being creative. I might be on the verge of my next hit record. You know what I'm saying? This might be my next hit record right here. And then, bam, because I wanted to fiddle around with the pedal board. You know what I'm saying? So at some point, you want to definitely focus. And when you can just go, all right, you could just play, dog. Like, you just want to spend less time. You see how I was able to just get from sound to sound? Those are all very different, complex sound. They all, so the first one is the C4 synth MS-70 CDR, Empress, ToneX, and the HX1, right? All that, then switch to a whole different patch on the MS-70 CDR Plus and the HX1, and turn off the C4 synth. You see what I'm saying? And bypass the MS-60B Plus and the Hog 2 and the vocoder. So even though it seems like it's not doing much, even just bypassing everything is amazing. Being able to go from here to takes a lot more than just one click a lot of times, but just going to go to this sound. But, you know, just to be able to go from there to y'all don't understand how much of a headache it has been trying to get from those sounds, like during the show. Like that loop would have took me a lot longer, not because of me thinking of the parts. I mean, mind you, I just made that up, just some stuff off the top of my head. But because I could just like let my creativity kind of just do what it had to do and just go ahead, because I knew, bam, I can bypass, bam, I can bring up the guitar sound, and not only that, I can bring up the synth bass sound, and not only that, I can bring up the synthesizer sound where I can, I love that shimmer. That shimmer on that HX1 is amazing. It's nice. I love it on the Plethora X1. And mind you, this is with all these sounds have been without me even adding the other pedals like the Mel 9 and the Key 9 or the Plethora X1 or even really, these filters. I haven't even really added, or like the Deep Freeze, I haven't even added all this other stuff yet, or these pedals down here, other than the loopers. You know what I'm saying? So all that from just tapper. 8-foot switches. I mean, mind you, these are page up, page down, but these can be assigned to presets as well. But I would recommend leaving it for page up, page down, so you can just get to more presets, But yeah, that's something that definitely will, if you want to get into looping, or even if you want to get into just using the sounds live. Like, it's one thing to have a whole bunch of effects pedals, but it's another thing, I found out, at least, for me, it was a whole nother thing incorporating that into my live setup, my live sound, and being able to do that fluently took me a while. And, I got to it the best I could, but adding and incorporating this Midi is going to just take that to the next level, where I know I can just pull this big pedal board out. It's the size of a 61 key keyboard, but I can just pull this out, plug in the plugs, sit the MIDI controller wherever I would like it to be, control that, and just keep this pedal board nearby. and I can just, wherever I want to go, I can go from there and not have to worry about, you know, coming down here. Let me fiddle with this little toggle. You know how difficult it is trying to get to something like this little toggle here? Like, look, I don't know if y'all can even see this. This little toggle here. You trying to get to this in the middle of a show. This is so irritating. Because this is how you switch the presets on these source audio pedals. You got to switch that. And then if you want to get to the other 3 presets without a MIDI controller, you got to press the button on the back, or you got to press this and hold this. And you see, like, I have mine set up to, if I hold this for a few seconds, it'll switch to the alternative bank of presets of the 3. But with this, I can have 8 of them lined out perfectly. Don't have to touch that toggle switch at all. And I don't even have to, better yet, I don't even have to touch the pedal, because I got it set up to where everything is just there. And when I'm in my presets, I can turn them on and off. I can turn that pedal on and off. I don't know why they click, but it clicks when you turn it on and off. But I just find it amazing and a lifesaver. So definitely something worth looking into if you haven't already. Like I said, these are H2 Midi Pro, runs about $50. I think that little thing is like $50. Not even expensive. Make sure you get the H2 Midi Pro or the H4. The H4 has 4 MIDI ports. So instead of just the standard, it has 2. This one has 2 standard MIDI ports. That one has 4. I don't find that I need 4. You know, most pedals, I mean, I could have used 4 would have been useful, but I just daisy chain them. You know, like I have the Hog 2 daisy chain from the HX1 through Midi. And you know, the great thing about Midi, you don't even have to put them in exact order. Like, you can have all these daisy chained together and put them in any order, but they will only respond to the Midi channel that you have them set to. So, you know, like I have one, I'm just going to say the Midi channels. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 16 on that one. You know, forgive me, I just set this up today. So, but yeah, now, you know, I think it's a good time. And it's MIDI Captain. They got smaller MIDI controllers than this that you could use, but this one was $179. And the reason I got this one is because it does have a lot of features. Like, I can control a lot of stuff at once with this thing, and it's extremely programmable, especially in geek mode. I've been able to really get some stuff done. And if you use like a HX Stomp or something like that, it already has presets for that. So, which is another bonus. You know, I use, on the iPad, I use a bias amp as well. So that one on the iPad, it'll set up, it'll automatically have this configured to work with the iPad, the bias amps in the iPad. So that's really convenient. And I originally got this MIDI controller for Guitar Rig. Eventually, I would love a way to get Guitar Rig out of the house. You know what I'm saying? I love the reverbs and stuff and delays in Guitar Rig, the plugin, but I can't. I'm not carrying my laptop around everywhere. I already got to carry this other stuff. What's going on, Brand? I appreciate you stopping by. Yeah, that's a good combination. You got a G5N and the MS-70 CDR Plus. The CDR Plus, man, don't sleep on this joint. This joint, serious, that's just as good as these two. In some ways, it could be considered better because the modulations are better in that Zoom one than the HX1. But I like the delays and reverbs in the HX1 I like the reverbs in the HX1 more. The delays are even. The delays are even, but this has better modulations, and you can use up to 6 effects at a time. You know, that ain't too bad. But the HX1, you can only use one effect at a time, but they have some really good ones like the shimmer. And you know, that was my main concern with the HX1 was, you know, when I was getting it, I liked the sounds, but I wasn't sure how I was gonna use a lot of the effects without, um, you know, as additional. You know, every pedal feel like you got something else you got to tap dance with. You know what I'm saying? And it's like I love I love sounds, but I also uh, sometimes I do love just some good old simplicity. You know, just some good old um, straight to the point. And I feel like even when you have a complex setup, MIDI is the way you can have that ultimately complex setup with ease of use for performance. So I don't know. Definitely, if nothing else, if you're going to use these MS 70 CDR, or you're going to use these Zoom multi-stomp pedals, definitely check out MIDI for sure, because it's easier than trying to get to these buttons. Like, I can't get to these buttons, bro. Like, these little buttons here, I can't. The ones up top, I can get to these ones down bottom, but to change the patches, I can't get to them. I wear a size 12. I don't have baby feet. I can't get to those. So, and when I'm performing, I'm not gonna be trying to get in between all this. Like, come on, man. Like, especially when I can just bam, 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 you know, just be changing stuff. Look at that, look at that, look at that, just changing. It just changes with you. And I can just do this all day. And this is going, look, pick a pedal and focus on it and see it change. Nah, but it's ultimately, it's, I wouldn't even say you need to have a big pedal board to get into MIDI. If like I said, it's for these multi stomps, grab you like, let me see what is it called? I think it's called the M-Valve Chocolate, but it's like just like a little MIDI controller, and they're pretty. Vave chocolate, M-Vave. Yeah, the chocolate plus, that's going for 50. And the chocolate plus was the one I think somebody recommended, but the cheapest one, I think they said the regular is just the regular chocolate. That's like 35. Yeah, just the regular chocolate one's like 35. Chocolate plus, MIDI controller, M-Vave. Matter of fact, let me see. Let me put a link in here from my Amazon. You know, you see me? You feel me? And these ones, I've seen people control the ToneX 1 via MIDI with these controllers as well. I'm not sure. Don't go getting it. Talking about the Bass Negus told me this was gonna work on the ToneX 1. You gotta watch their videos for that. Man, I don't remember which exactly ones, but if you just type in ToneX 1 MIDI, it'll come up. Man, so this is. Did it go? Here we go. But yeah, I'd recommend this for, these ones seem to be pretty good. I haven't used them, so, but I've seen enough people use them where they should be pretty solid. nice, budget friendly. But because these ones, like I said, are 179 for these MIDI captains. MIDI captains and let me see, let me put a link in here for the H2 as well. Definitely check out this this little MIDI controller. Like I said, it's you gotta have this little box. You gotta have this little box. And look, it don't even take up much space. I was gonna put it underneath, but it's just so small, and I need to be able to get to it for stuff. It doesn't even take up much space though, so. Mm-mm-mm. Let me know if y'all got any questions. Let me see what we got here. Double D guitar. Yep, see? Um, I guess the guy's name is Double D Guitar on YouTube. Seems to have some videos in Vive, chocolate videos with the Zoom pedals. Yeah, those. Like I said, I haven't personally used it, but I've seen so many people using them. That typically is a good sign when most people have something good to say about the same product. So if you want to support the channel, you can buy these units through there, and you know, help your boy out. You know what I'm saying? As I could be here giving you this information. Oh, like I said, if you want to support the channel, you can go to the Patreon and you can support the channel that way. Or you can, if you want to buy my presets, I got presets for all these different pedals you see here. The Source Audio C4 synth, I got a 47 piece preset bass synth preset pack for that. The MS-60B, I got a 20 piece for that. I got 11 different preamps and plus my own personal preset pack for the ToneX One stuff, as well as the MS-70 CDR Plus. I got a 20, I think it's over 20 piece for that, but at least 20 on that 20 piece preset pack, and the Zoom B6 another 20 piece. So if you want, like, you don't want to have to spend time setting all these pedals up with the individual effects, but you like how mine sound, you can go and download those from the Patreon and just throw them right on your pedal, and instantly it's like I sat there and programmed it myself. So, because I literally did. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate that. Definitely add that. And don't forget, like, and so you'll take that H2 MIDI Pro and put it with that chocolate, or you'll put it with something like this MIDI Captain. Hold on, I didn't put the MIDI Captain up there. That's a pretty important piece. Um, and the MIDI Captain, I'm pretty impressed with the MIDI Captain myself. I think it's an exceptional unit. Hold on, give me 1 second, guys. And we're back. So definitely appreciate the love, you know. Feel free to, cash app, super chat, super thanks, all that good stuff. Let me know if y'all got any questions as well. Let me put this controller up here. Yeah, this is the one I bought. I bought the blue one. And I will say it's mad convenient. This controller here. So, one thing to note is this controller, the MIDI Captain. You can run I could run this whole pedal board, and I can have this whole pedal board linked up to my DAW through the MIDI Captain as well, or the H2 MIDI Pro. So you could literally use this MIDI Captain to have your pedals and different stuff communicate with the computer. Have the computer send messages and things like that will do changes or it's just so much stuff you could do, man. Especially with stuff like the Hog 2. The Hog 2 has so many things that you you cannot get to live. It's so many, all these sliders and stuff, and you can't fiddle around with all that stuff live. That's why I had to get this foot controller with the memory in it. You know what I'm saying? But now I got more memory through the MIDI, and I get to control that, as well as the V256. There's stuff that I can't, that you can't even do without going through MIDI. It's only, it does most of the parameters on the pedal, but there's parts of the pedal that you can't even get to without going through MIDI. And on top of that, you can actually use a keyboard directly with that V256, which I could use the end. I could come into the dang it, I didn't mean to do that. I can come to the MIDI input here, MIDI in from the output of a keyboard or something like that, and I can use that vocoder and not have to alter my setup in any way. I wouldn't have to unplug it and all that extra stuff. And I would just set the keyboard up to go through channel 16, the same channel as the vocoder. So ultimately, this is pretty easy, But that's all I'm going to do for today, guys. I appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button. Make sure you check out the Patreon. I got some music courses coming up. I'll be doing an improvisation course, a music theory course, and a bass technique courses. So it's going to be 3 different courses that you'll be able to have access to, as well as you'll be able to get a limited amount of spots I'll have for one-on-one lessons, once a month or something like that. I haven't decided how I'm gonna do that yet, but it's got to be a limited amount of spots or something like that. But you'll be able to have a one-on-one with me through Zoom or whatever platform we decide works best for that application, and I can help you with your setup, or I can help you with your playing. I can help you with anything dealing with music and getting you to the next level. I could definitely help you out. So make sure you subscribe and you follow me on all social media at the Bass Negus, Negus, at Negus. You know what I'm saying? So it's on all social media. But I definitely appreciate y'all hanging with me. This has been another episode of All Bass Creations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you guys later, and we'll have a new topic then. We won't be doing, we got a few reviews coming up too. So, like I said, if you haven't already, you can go check out my review I did of this Zoom MS-60B LP, the looper. And this is a 32-bit stereo looper. It sounds amazing. I also, I'll be doing one on the Jam Man Solo HD. So, peace. I appreciate y'all. stay tuned for these tutorials and demos and reviews. Peace.